Hazuku Baruch, good morning everyone. Today is Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av is the day of celebration that Lo Hayu Yamim Tovim BeYisrael Kemo Tu B'Av. In the Moroccan tradition, the day of Tu B'Av was also a very special day because it was the day that the Hilula of Rabbi Amram ben Diwan was celebrated. Who was Rabbi Amram ben Diwan? I just want to say a few short words so that we understand his great personality, because Rabbi Amram ben Diwan didn't leave us works of Torah, so we don't study his Torah on a daily basis. However, his legacy is very well known. He is buried in the city of Wazan, which is in between the city of Tetuan or Tangier in the north and the city of Fez, a little bit more in the center. It's a village, it's a city called Wazan, and there it is known that the tzaddik Rabbi Amram ben Diwan is buried. That there's a tree that is buried right by that is grown right by his place of burial that does not burn, Rabotai. I was there, I saw it. Other people were there. They will tell you that they saw it. There's a fire there, and just the tree does not burn. We just had the singer Lipa Schmelzer by the wedding. He said he was also going to Rabbi Amram ben Diwan. Wow. There's yesterday by the kever last night. There was a lot of Hasidim over there. People are praying because it is known by Rabbi Amram ben Diwan. There's tremendous Yeshuot. So where did Rabbi Amram ben Diwan come from? He was originally born in Yerushalayim in the year 1740, and his parents were originally from a small village in Morocco. That's where their lineage was from, in the south of Tangier, called Diwan. So that's why his name was Rabbi Amram bin Diwan. Ibn, they always added on to the words like Ibn Dinan, but it was always his original name came from that village. He studied in the yeshiva in Yerushalayim at the time, the great yeshiva Mikubalim. Also, the time where there was great geonim in that yeshiva. Just to give you an idea, who was in that yeshiva at the time? Rabbi Moshe Burla and Rabbi Yisrael Yaakov Burla, who was later the Rav of Yerushalayim. Rav Ephraim Navon was there. Rav Ephraim Navon wrote one of the most monumental works that we study in yeshivot, called the Machane Ephraim, that they say that the works of Rav Chaim Brisker, Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, is based on a lot of the Shita of Rav Ephraim Navon, the Machane Ephraim. These are the great Geonim he learned with. Rabbi Nisin Beracha, who was the son-in-law of the Chida, Rav Eliyahu Farchi, Rav David Faraj, Rav Avram ben Shushan, Rav David Ashkenazi. They all studied. They would study in the morning halacha, and then they would learn Reshit Chochmah and Bet Yosef and Kabbalah. It was a very great yeshiva. And at the time, in 1763, the yeshiva of Hebron knew a lot of difficulties. So they sent Rabbi Amram ben Diwan to be a shadar, a shlucha de Rabbanan, which was a common occurrence that they would send in Morocco, in Eretz Yisrael, people to Morocco that had more money than Eretz Yisrael at the time. It was a very poor place in Eretz Yisrael at the time. And they would send people from Shluchei de Rabbanan. There was a Shluchei de Rabbanan, Rav Eliyahu Ashkenazi and Rav Chia Dayan. Rav Eliyahu Ashkenazi was just the father of Natan Azati, but they were great Talmidei Chachamim that they came to Morocco. They learned with the grandfather of the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, who was in turn the Rav of the Or HaChaim HaKadosh. There's a long history of all the great Shluchei de Rabbanan. Here, Rabbi Amram ben Diwan, they chose him because, number one, he was a tzaddik that was a descendant of the community, and they were familiar with the name and where he's from. Number two, he was a great dayan and a great halachic decider in Torah. So whenever they would have a question, they knew that they could always go to Rabbi Amram ben Diwan. As a matter of fact, we see that in the letter that the Chachamim, Rav Aaron Alfandri, Rav Yitzchak Zevi, Rav Bajayo, Rav Fato, Rav Archa, Rav Gedalia, all of these great Rabbanim, they signed on the letter saying that how great of a Talmid Chacham he is, who's brilliant, and he's a tzaddik, and at the same time how difficult their situation is. So they have this letter, it's documented, that sending Rabbi Amram ben Diwan to Morocco to raise funds for them. So these Geonim also knew that once the Geonim of Morocco, from the city of Fez and from the city of Meknes and the other great Geonim, a golden era. We're talking about in the mid 1700s, were the greatest tikufa in Morocco at the time, and they sent Rabbi Amram ben Diwan. As a matter of fact, there's a sefer called Meshiluach from Rabbi Rafael Aron Bon Sonego in he has a teshuvah there about the ownership of a Bet HaKnesset who it belonged to, and there's a signature there on the psak from Rabbi Amram ben Diwan that he added his name on to the signature. A third reason why they sent specifically Rabbi Amram ben Diwan was because he was known as a Po'el Yeshuot. Hashem listened to his tefillot. He didn't do any fancy tricks. He had a direct line to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that was his and that was the zichut that people knew that they could always go and get his beracha. And till today we know that people who pray b'zchut Rabbi Amram ben Diwan and they ask Hashem in his zichut and that he intervenes in their zichut, they see great things. Either way, 7 years later, we'll fast forward, the Hachamim of Hebron wanted him to go for a new mission, and basically they wanted him to go to somewhere else. Especially, they also had a problem that they couldn't go into Marat HaMachpelah anymore. The Muslims didn't let them go, and he really wanted, in order to pray for his son who was sick. So he actually went to Meknes at the time and visited the famous Paitan Rabbi David Hassin. And when he visited Rabbi David Hassin, he composed a beautiful piyut in the memory of Rabbi Amram ben Diwan, who it's written in the Sefer Tehillah David, page 47. So he came to Meknes in that year in 1743. You have to understand the great Geonim that there were at the time in Meknes. There was the Bet HaKnesset from the great Malach Rabbi Rafael Berdugo, the Mechaber Sefer of Torot Emet and Mishpatim Yesharim and Memenuchot and others. And there, when Rabbi Amram ben Diwan gave a drasha in that Bet HaKnesset, it looked like he was an angel talking, and the whole community begged him that for direction, and he was encouraging them to move to Eretz Yisrael as a shluchei de Rabbanan. And either way, at the time, they because of the whole war that was going on at the time in Morocco, Rabbi Amram ben Diwan wasn't able to leave, and since he wasn't able to leave, he eventually stayed from Meknes. He went there to we're talking about it already in the year 1782. He started going towards Sofru, and there he was in a small village there called Azjan, and he caught pneumonia there in 1782, and he was niftar on Tisha B'Av. Wow. He was niftar on Tisha B'Av. And the Rabbanim, when they signed that he was niftar on Tisha B'Av, they wrote, Ba'u Banim Ad Mashber. Our children came to a breaking point, which is Rabbi Amram ben Diwan was niftar Ad Amram Diwan. Ad Amram Diwan, which is also the Mashber, is the gematria of the year Tafkuf Mem Bet, which was the day of his Hirulah. So because of that great loss, the Rabbi Amram ben Diwan was buried in the city of Wazan, and from that time it was known that they would celebrate the Hirulah on Tu B'Av. They can't celebrate obviously on Tisha B'Av, so we always push it off on Tu B'Av, and that was this great legacy of Rabbi Amram ben Diwan. Was most importantly an unbelievable sage in Torah that was Po'el Yeshot and gave his life for Am Yisrael. Just like we mentioned about Dor HaChaim HaKadosh recently, that he gave his life, and that's how he died for Klal Yisrael, because he tried to bring the Geula closer, and that's what caused that the Klipot went against him. Rabbi Amram ben Diwan was a great protection for Am Yisrael. Yizichro Baruch, Amen.